Good evening. You're listening to Extreme TV. I'm your host, Rob. Alongside me, I have the young 20-something from Central Florida, Professor Pixel. Of course, this broadcast is coming to you from the Extreme Studios in the Pinos Palace, just west of Central Florida. What we're doing tonight with Extreme TV, as people are following the channel, is just kind of a quick once-over, is we take a look at some season one of a particular television show, young or old, doesn't matter. We certainly don't discriminate. We just kind of come in unprepared and just talk about what we think about it. For Professor Pixel, the young 20-something, and myself, your host, Rob, from the 80s. This is a first watch for both of us. And a few weeks ago, Pixel, when we started talking about Columbo, it was a show that I'd only remember seeing a few of the TV movies in the late 80s, early 90s. Didn't understand the love for the character. Understood he had a problem with one of his eyes. I think it's the right one. But he was a very iconic character who kind of almost reminds you a little bit of Sam Spade, Philip Marlowe, a.k.a. the trench coat wearing guys from the 30s and 40s from Raymond Chandler novels, portrayed by Humphrey Bogart. But we don't really know because I think they're still fleshing out this character. But oh my gosh, as we said in episode, what a strong debut for a television episode. It's one of the best. It's one of the best first episodes of a TV show I've ever seen. And this is a show that's over 50 years old. And of course, that one was directed by a young Steven Spielberg. Tonight, with episode 2, we have the same setup, which for those of you Columbo files out there understand that you get to see who the killer is right off the bat. You get to see how the death is done. And you get to see exactly how Columbo figures it out, and that's what makes this a bit different and probably somewhat unique at that time. So episode 2, Robert Culp, aka I think the other half of I Spy. He was in another show in the 80s. He was mostly a good guy, a nice guy, kind of a goofy guy. Here, a bit of a departure from the first character we had, who was so flamboyant and absolutely tremendous. But I think this is a very strong episode as well, in a different way, and I like some of the touches they have in there, and we're going to dive into that scene by scene. What's your initial take, Pixel?
I concur. It's another strong episode. I watched 1 and 2 pretty much back to back, and when you have the first one super solid, and then on to the next, and it's just continuing, you get this warm feeling inside that it's going all right. With this one, obviously it's going to be a bit different because you can't have the same murder twice. This one is, I suppose we should just dive right into the start of it.
Death lends a hand. Lend us a hand by starting this episode off.
So this newspaper magnate, Arthur Kennicott, he wants to know whether or not his wife is cheating on him. So he has hired a private investigator, played by Robert Culp, to go ahead and find out. And Robert Culp, he is speaking to him. In the other room, you can see somebody's watching.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes ahead and says, your wife has a clean bill of health. Absolutely not cheating on you. Loves you. You're doing great. And the older man is obviously relieved. So happy to hear this. And he appreciates all that's done. He leaves. And that's when Robert Culp goes into the next room, where we can see the wife in question. He has lied to this man because he's trying to blackmail her to get some information from Arthur Kennicott.
So let me ask you this. Do you feel like this was blackmail? Obviously, he's leveraging her, so yes, it kind of is in a way. But the thing that really struck me here is, again, like Marania's saying here in chat, this is a bit of a departure for Robert Culp's character. I thought the way he did this was absolutely phenomenal. His approach, it wasn't like he came off as, I thought, completely skeevy. It was very professionally done. Like, this guy's super confident, and he didn't come across as angry or had some hee ho ho ha ha alternative motive. He just wants to have information because he knows this is how you play in a world full of heavies. I thought it was pretty damn good, this whole interaction.
I don't disagree with you. Yeah, you get a feeling that he's probably done this before because he's in an information game. That's what he wants. Information. Sorry, prisoners already.
And what I like too about the older guy that's here, Arthur, was that, he's a big deal in this world, but you don't get the sense that he's one of these guys that has a trophy wife. So these subtle little changes to the characters that we may have become accustomed to over the years with television and movies, I think, immediately draws your attention. Culp's playing against type here. You got Arthur Kennicott character played by Ray Milland, who'd been around a long time. it's not unusual for a man in a position of power to have a younger wife, and you can argue whether you think that's moral, ethical, or any of that other kind of crap. Bottom line is it's reality, and it always happens. The powerful usually get what they want. Usually what they want is a younger woman. And you didn't get the idea that she's a trophy wife or is abusive to her.
No.
You felt like his joy for it is absolutely there. And of course, he has concerns because being a younger woman, she's going to have value to younger men. So that's why he's there checking on it. It's not like he's having an affair and they have an open relationship or anything skeevy. You almost feel for the older guy, which normally you wouldn't in a show. So then 5 minutes of all this happening, you've got a nice little pattern of characters being set out without having to show the affair or who the other guy is or anything else there too. I think this is a nice little way to get drawn into the episode.
It absolutely is. And the thing is, like you were saying, he's absolutely confident in everything he's doing. He doesn't seem like he's a bad guy for doing this.
Yeah.
But then...
but he's not a murderer yet.
Not yet. But he returns home that night. His confidence is kind of shaken within a moment because that woman, the Arthur Kennicott, Mrs. Kennicott, is waiting for him. And she already has an answer. No, absolutely not. And she says, you can try to threaten me, but that's fine. I'm going to go tell my husband right now about the affair. And I'm hoping that he forgives me, but I will not live under your threat. And he's shaken, completely shaken. And he's trying to get her to understand, no, you've got to do this. You don't want to tell her. And to the point, he gets in a fit of rage, smacks the woman, and she is tossed back.
His pimp slap is strong.
Very strong. Ring right here on the left hand. And yeah, she's knocked back to the floor, smashes against a table, and she has died.
So
and you get this close up on his face, and you just, as the music's building up, he looks horrified by what he's done. He didn't mean to kill her. But all throughout his glasses, you see in the reflection as he's cleaning up what he's done now.
Yeah.
Great shot.
Yeah, and one of the things, too, is since it's the early 70s, you got this leftover 60s aesthetic with the suits are showing 1 inch on the cuffs instead of your traditional half inch, measured from the wrist bone and all that, too, which everybody, even with modern suits, gets it wrong. So you got the little big collars and all that. So just the house with the green shag and her with those mom pants or whatever like that. She's an attractive woman, but it's interesting because, again, the way the characters are, again, from what I recall watching this a week or so ago, I get zero sexual vibes from either one. Like she'll say, well, you can have me as long as you don't tell him. And he's like, well, if you keep this between us, I may not tell him. No, none of the simple, easy types of writing that you could do, right? Again, Culp is playing this character very, very kind of measured. She's playing it the right way. And even though she's making a comment of like, oh, my husband's the wrong guy to have as an enemy because he's like, well, he'll despise you for telling. People's relationships are own, and what they do inside the bedroom in her house is their own business. So whether you say it's the right thing to do for her to tell her own husband about it, she's realized, and she seems genuine about the nature of her mistake and what's going in. So she's realizing that even though her husband's old, this is where the big boys play. This is where men who are of power make decisions about stuff. So she seems like she generally loves him and just fucked up. I mean, I'm not excusing it. We don't know why it happened. We don't need to know why it happened for purposes of this episode. But you're right. The whole thing I heard about being defiant early on, again, this is a little bit different. And the point that you say where he looks horrified, we would call this involuntary manslaughter because he wasn't trying to kill her. But again, his slap is so strong that we don't need to actually see the violence. Just the threat of what it would be and how it occurs is powerful enough with smashing glass and all that. And to your point, where you see it through the lens, that's a nice little shot. This is a nice opening act to this episode here of what's going on, because you realize he's going, oh, fuck, I didn't mean to do that. What do I got to do now? You know what I'm saying? And he's not sitting there acting like a little bitch. He's going, okay, what do I need to do? She's laying there. He's checking things out on her. It's like, okay, this is Columbo, and this is the setup. If you don't know it, which most people who watch the show know about it, understand it. I think it's just great. I'm like, man, another strong debut going in so far here. But then he goes into the cleanup, replace cleaner mode, which all the bad guys have to do here. So what did you notice about how he was doing when he was taking a ring off and cleaning it up and disposing of the body? What was your take on how all this went?
I mean, I was pretty like caught off in the moment that it actually happened, and the fact that the shot was all throughout the glasses. It is a very cool shot, but I remember now it's a very still shot. Like it's not him like reflecting in his horror as the scene is going on. It's close. It has a close up. It stays on his face, and then he's paused. So that
Yeah.
was a little distracting for me.
Mhm.
But for the actual cleanup part of it, like he said, he's a confident man earlier on. He has experience that we learn in a little bit with police matters, so he knows certain things to try to avoid being caught.
Yes, that's true. Not to be overlooked.
And he makes a pretty confident story surrounding this. He drags her out. She's left in a field. Go ahead, take anything valuable off her, and then just go home. Leave the corpse there. Just make it look like a mugging. But that next, what is it, night?
I guess the next day, yeah, when they find the body, we get the introduction of Columbo being pulled over by a cop, and this is kind of a slightly different exchange too, just to say, okay, he's definitely on the way before they get to the body and see what's going on.
Yeah, because his car, well, your turn signal isn't turning on, sir. Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry. I'll get that fixed. I'm Columbo.
Well, here one thing I want to point out about this body thing too, and I don't know how you think about it, but in our Extreme TV review, when we've covered, actually the only show we've covered more than one season of, that would be Twin Peaks, where we've covered all 3 seasons in addition to Fire Walk with Me. But remember when the first episode, when the fisherman finds Laura's body wrapped in plastic, and they're looking down, and then they're looking up, and then we see Dale Cooper and all that. Here, when they're talking about the body, it's kind of an interesting shot because the camera's like from the body's position looking up at everybody, and I go, I don't know how routine certain shots were on television back in the day, but here I'm assuming the aspect ratio is 4:3, so it's more of a square type of shot, where people seem to be a bit more zoomed in. You do stuff more now with widescreen and digital and everything too, and of course with the size of cameras and digital technology. But I liked how some of the shots were in here because we're not really seeing the body. They're busy talking about it. But Columbo's doing something that we kind of talked about in the last episode. He's a bit of a listener. He's letting everybody talk while he just looks. He observes. He takes the information before trying to parse it and everything else there too. And of course, he mentions a bruise on the cheek, which the other guys may have missed. So I don't know if he's supposed to be that good of an observer. It's really hard to tell for me. So his character to me is still something that's like a work in progress.
Well, I'm not sure I feel that. I think it's pretty... How everybody describes Columbo, even you, before we reviewed the first episode, he just seems kind of like a bumbling fool that is able to...
I don't know if he's a bumbling fool or he's a real smart dickhead. I can't figure that out yet because I think it's one or the other. Because he's smart enough to let the people who have ego talk, and invariably they let a clue slip. And now, whether you agree that's a TV thing, like with the contact lens or other things like that we'll be talking about, make you believe, oh Jesus, they just wrote that in for him to finally figure it out. But when he goes through the aha moment to Sherlock Holmes, in the third act, at least in the last episode, and this one, I go, okay, I can kind of see where early on he was at, and it makes you almost want to go back and look at the episode. Okay, let me look at it through Columbo's eyes when he first started to suspect something, because his hunches generally have been right, or at least, early on they have been, and I don't know if that will continue.
Well, I was saying bumbling fool in the way that most people, like, you don't say that now, especially after we went ahead.
No, but that's how everyone thinks of. No, just one more thing, sir. Like it's a cute thing, or he's a bumming idiot that can't think of the right thing to say. I agree with you. That's not that's not the impression I've gotten.
But that's what I was going to say now. He is kind of a guy that gets overlooked a lot, I feel, because of that persona that he has. But in his mind, he's working everything from the very get-go. He is able to notice that bruise on the cheek. He listens to the medical examiner pretty much say that the body appears to have been moved or it didn't happen here. And he's piecing all these puzzle pieces together while not having the complete picture. And that's what he's going to have to learn. So when he goes to speak with Kennicott, and there's kind of this impression from the police captain that this is important. The papers will have us slammed if we don't get this right. And Columbo's not worried about any of that. And that's not his thing. He wants to find out what happened. Always. He's just trying to piece it together. So he speaks to Arthur Kennicott. He kind of gets the vibe that he's got nothing to do with this. Kennicott himself, it has to be someone else. And Kennicott then says that he has a man that he's worked with in the past that he wants to get on this. And that is Rimmer, Robert Culp.
Now this guy Ray Milland, who plays the older husband, he's a Welsh guy, so automatically he's going to sound awesome. I was getting Paper Chase vibes from this guy, who of course is John Houseman. He did some real famous commercials in the 70s. He was in that TV show Paper Chase or whatever, and he just had this distinctive voice, and he always talked real importantly, Smith Barney. And, not quite Orson Welles-ish, because he's not, Orson Welles is talented, but Orson doesn't have the accent that these guys do. And John Houseman, of course, is the guy from the John Carpenter's The Fog, giving the speech to everybody at the beginning of the movie about it's 11:55, the fog rolled in. And again, what I like about Ray Milland's performance here as the husband whose wife dies is he's very contrite. I mean, he's not going, hey, you dumb motherfuckers, I'm going to have everybody on your ass and all that. Again, that would be easy to do, and he chooses not to do it. But he's like, look, really loved her, blah, blah, blah. I need to know how to do it. And you're right. He does everything he can to help Columbo out, but he expects results. He's a guy that's used to getting them. That's his lifetime. He's rocking the ascot when they go to his mansion, which I can't tell because I'm not one of those guys. But I want to say this is the mansion they had in The Jerk and some other movie, because Columbo's walking by his pool. So I'm going, I know I've seen this before. But I want to say this is where in The Jerk with Steve Martin it would be a few years later, actually in the late 70s, where he's doing the karate chop fight and they discover he's broke. And this is it. It looks like it's the same set piece. But anyway, whether it's 70s standards or not, this is a gorgeous place. I love seeing people of means and accomplishment who've earned it the hard way. He's walking around and he's completely in this element. And again, Columbo does what I think is good. He just asks a couple questions, goes on his gut, and he just shuts up. It's simple storytelling, but it's effective. You see them doing stuff by action. And to you, I was like, okay, how are they going to involve Robert Culp, right? Well, of course, it's the guy that he knows, right? So makes it easy, right? But it makes sense. It's not a weak point in the plot. I think it's very strong. He's going to be teamed up with the very guy. It's a slightly different way than what we saw in episode 1 about it. I like it.
Yeah. It's not this is convenient. No. It all seems to come together in a very natural way. From there, we should, I guess, talk about some golfing, because Columbo learns that apparently she was a golfer. And she had a personal trainer. So that affair that we mentioned earlier, it becomes pretty clear that personal trainer was the man that she had an affair with. And this guy, at first, he doesn't seem like a bad guy or anything. Just a younger man who goes ahead. He got himself a little something, but he wasn't being malicious with it.
He wasn't a Chad.
Yeah.
I'm going to speak from the coach's perspective here, being a coach of several sports here myself for a very long period of time. This guy's shit as a coach, but you can definitely tell that all the women they're bored housewives. These kind of situations come up. You don't even have to do anything. They just throw themselves at you. And again, we don't necessarily need to know why it happened, unless, of course, he could be the killer. And we're trying to go, okay, who's all the guys that could be a killer? Again, not that kind of show. So to me, I agree with you. It just seems like a Joe that just, had a little quick fling or one night or whatever it is, and it happens. Again, it's reality. People don't like to talk about it, but he gets to meet Columbo here. And he seems like such a wuss to Columbo. It's kind of funny in here. I'm like, you're no stud, bro. You're kind of a chump.
Yeah, no, but I the guide seemed nice enough. for being, screwing around with
Yeah.
with his student, as it were.
It's like he's going, get out of my face, bro.
Yeah. And he's trying to be smart about it. He doesn't want to get involved. What I do love is when we get to back to Bremer's headquarters, and Bremer's anxious to speak with Columbo, wanting to get an idea of how he's heading this operation. And as they're discussing an investigation, they have dinner, I believe, right?
Well, they're in the war room first, which I love because you see this big, giant war board on the back, location of body. They've got circles, they got diagrams. This is like project management 101 with your KPIs and everything else with it to it. A little bit of the San Fernando Valley or wherever it's at. I'm like, it's so simple and basic. It works. It says, okay, that's right. The body's really, really far away. If you missed that little note in what happened, or you couldn't tell from when he dragged the body off, it's very clear in your head. So not only are they showing you that the body was dragged away and telling you, they're showing you again and reemphasizing it here without it being the stupid scenes you see in a lot of TV today, the data dumps where people are walking down a hallway and telling you as the viewer what's going on. Again, effective, simple. But yeah, they do go have dinner after they have a conversation.
Yeah, they have dinner. And as they're discussing, that's when, and I love this kind of in the opposite way from last time, because we had the writing partner last time trying to give an idea. You know what I think happened, detective? I think it's this. This is an actual investigator. This is somebody who was on the police force.
Yep.
And he's trying to give his theory to Columbo, what's happening right now, Oh, well, Muggers probably took her, got the... I wasn't talking to you, iPad. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, Siri threw me off for a loop. Muggers took her, probably just tried to steal anything, went too far, killed her, dumped the body. Who knows if they'll ever find him, They'll try, but here's something they could really do. And that's when Columbo goes ahead and brings up the ring on the face. And he doesn't think that the murder was premeditated, probably happened in the heat of the moment. And they just need to find someone who, is left-handed and has a terrible temper. And this scene is intense because Brimmer's going along with it. He's like, oh, so he'd hold his hand like this.
Yeah.
And it's one of those intense moments that you don't think anything's going to happen to Columbo. Nothing happens to Columbo.
And I love tables of food being shown in scenes, because again, scenes of two people standing there talking, useless. When things are going on and you're acting and talking, it allows yourself to physically do something and focus on it, makes it look more natural. And of course, Columbo with their set pieces, we've seen a lot of stuff happening. If you're elite, you like to think you're above everybody else. So all these power brokers have offices on top floors of building that have a nice backdrop. So of course they have that there while they're across the side of the table, eating from each other and talking and going over the case. So again, it's simple, it's effective. Columbo doesn't have much to say. He's doing the listening. And without having ever getting into it here on Extreme Movie Show or Extreme TV, let's talk for a moment about lies. There's different kinds of lies. Some people say petty lies. Somebody say, what's a lie? Well, there's lies by omission where you don't tell everything. So some people think that's automatically lie when you choose not to say everything. There's deliberately lying. There's lying by agreeing to a part of the truth and contextually trying to tie it to something else to diminish its potential impact on the person that the lie is about. And so to your point, again, I agree with you in a roundabout way. Where I'm getting at it is Culp is smart enough, his character, to listen, shut up, not be so arrogant as we saw in episode 1, but enough to go along with it to see what's going on, because if he can kind of steer him in the right way, then maybe he can get him off of it. But if he said, oh, no, it can't be that, or what like that, that would arouse suspicion. So again, he's so laid back while doing this, and he's not effervescent in his personality, except for that one little outburst that we saw of anger that killed her involuntarily. I think it's a good scene. I think you're absolutely spot on in your description here.
Yeah. Yep.
Looks like a caprese salad. I can't tell. Well, I just see tomatoes. I don't see anything else. Okay. I'm sorry.
Well, you actually have the episode up.
Well, I said, let me pull this up to see what the hell are they eating, because they got the rolls. What's in the middle there?
The caprese salad is. Oh man.
Might be egg. Obviously, they've got water. No lemon or lime in there, though. So from Florida, I'm disappointed. No citrus. Oh, that is asparagus. So that must be chilled, I imagined. And, oh, God, what is that? Anyway, we like to talk food here on the Extreme Movie Show, too. But anyway, I'm letting that distract us from continuing on. But yeah, we're here getting close to the end of the second act, where there's been some advancement. Columbo feels a lot more optimistic about it, as he likes to say, or whatever. But again, the back and forth here with him not trying to out macho him. I like how they took the bad guy and went in a totally different direction this episode, and it's continuing up to this point here where I'm going, how the hell is Columbo going to catch him? Even though his instincts are probably right, we know he's going to catch his guy. We're just not seeing it yet. So I like that. We're 2/3 in. How is he going to connect the dots?
Well, he does get one answer. Eventually, he's just Ken. Goes ahead and lets her. He's closing up the shop. Columbo goes to speak to him again, trying to get some answers. And he finally does. Ken admits that, yes, he was having an affair. He was afraid because he didn't have an alibi, but their affair, it was called off by Lenore herself. And that was quite a bit earlier on, actually. Because he thinks that she genuinely loves her husband. Just got caught up in a moment, but it wasn't anything like she was a serial cheater. She just
strayed.
She
caught in the moment.
Caught in the moment, and he was fine with that. And he wasn't a jilted lover, but he was afraid that the police might think that. But
you're skipping over the I don't know if this is intentional, but the scene where she's buried and they go to exhume the body. Because you can't have a show where somebody dies and you can't exhume a body these days. This goes back a way.
I thought that happened in the opposite order. My bad.
Well, I'm just saying. So
I'm pretty much done with Ken. Columbo knows he didn't do it because he doesn't wear a ring at all. And the killer definitely does. So he's like, Ken, I don't think you did it. Thank you for this information. Goodbye.
Well, the reason why is because one big thing we're going to talk about here towards the end is Columbo's reasoning to where he's led to at this point is that if she had contact lenses on when she got killed, that maybe if it was a blow to her face that killed her, they could have popped out. So back in the day, and I don't know how it was in the 70s because I had contacts in the 80s, but you had a choice between what was called hard lenses or soft lenses. And we didn't have the ones that you could really wear for more than a couple of days at a time. And even soft lenses would slip or roll in the back of your eye. It wasn't a pleasurable experience for me personally. It may have been for some people, but hard lenses were known for really popping out a lot. And so, I mean, not that you need to really know that for it. And I don't know how prevalent contacts are today with different types of eye surgeries you can have that's not very expensive that will make your eyes roughly 20/20, and some other versions that might make it close to that, but with some other effects. But back then at the time, you're like, okay, that makes sense. But it seems kind of real. But the thing is Columbo notices that one of the lenses actually is missing, and they can't find it because they look in the coffin. So that's what tells Culp's character, Brimmer, to look for him, right? And so he seems to find one, right? So you're like, okay, this seems like a bit of a stretch. He found it, so where can we go from this? And we know we're getting to the end of the episode, so let me pause here, just kind of say, we're going to find out really quick. But I didn't know how you felt about this when they go to the garage there.
I wanted to. There was a reason why I didn't get to that, because I wanted to bring up Columbo at that dinner was pretty much offered a job. We skipped over that bit. He's offered a job, so he gets a tour of the facility from one of the agents. And as he's going around, he starts talking about the case and some information. And that's when Culp comes out, and he just lays into this man that
he gives him a business, doesn't he?
Yeah. his anger is clear. It builds up, and then he tries to calm himself down. But at that point, Brimmer's already slipping up. He's falling more and more because Columbo is a really smart guy.
Mm-hmm.
And so, to your point, the body is exhumed, trying to find, one of the contact lenses, because she wore contacts. She hated glasses. They're missing. We're going to have to find it. So Brimmer, he goes and looks through his car to find the contact lens. And in that darkness, he's going ahead. He thinks he found it, and that's when, all at once, lights on, police is all around. We have you surrounded. But he goes up. What do you have in your hand? And he actually tries to dispose of the contact lens elsewhere, but he gets it in time. Columbo is able to snatch from him, and they know, okay, he did it. And Arthur and Culp admits it. Then he knows he's been got. Yeah. And once he's dragged away, he's with Kennicott right there, and says, "Actually, your wife had both contact lenses on." That's the weak part of this, because it wasn't actually her contact lens.
Yeah, I don't know if I like this. So part of me has a major problem with it, because, like, look, I don't know if when you're preparing a body and all that, I don't know much about all that, except what I see in movies, which I know everything's real, right? If they would have taken that off, look for it, don't care. I don't know why. If it was an eyes closed, open casket funeral, who knows? But yeah, hard lenses were definitely, hard on the wear, like Lenore's, or like Marania's saying in the chat there. But for me, I don't know that I like this. This seemed like a cop out, because it's like, fuck, they got me too as a watcher. I mean, I get that they talked about the lenses, but we didn't see anything about it, and we didn't really know till later on that they talked about it. So yes, they did introduce it in there. We didn't see it from the beginning, so part of me feels like it's unfair watching it, that I have no chance of figuring it out, like Columbo, which is probably a part of the writing. You're not supposed to know until he does, even though you know who did it and how, but how does he connect the dots, which is, of course, the hook. But the whole idea of, I fooled you, part of me goes, God, I'm not going to say that that's entrapment, because I don't know the law like that, but it just seems very suspect and very TV-fied here at the end. And to me, this...
Hey, he did. It's not like he planted the contact lens in there. He just put a potato right in the...
But you know what? How you obtain your evidence is a big deal. And we could argue politics and rules and regulations, but even back in the early 70s, we've talked about the politicization of cops in movies. Like we talk about the Dirty Harry ones, where we love the idea of being a vigilante when he's really not. He's just a hardcore not vigilante. He's a hardcore militant type cop. And I joke about T.J. Hooker kind of being a buffoon, that people kind of made fun of as a cop. But really, cops aren't there to serve and protect you. They're there to be instruments of the government. And a lot of people get that wrong. And so being a respected member of your neighborhood or your society there, whatever culture you grew up in as a cop, was always a big deal. And in Dirty Harry films, you got to see how progressive nature allowed a lot of different opinions out there about crime, and why crime was really horrible in the 70s. So yeah, there's dirty cops and there's entrapment and all sorts of things. This just seemed gimmicky, and I don't like it. So I don't know how controversial this ending is. It's hard to say. It just wasn't very clean and well wrapped up to it, and I felt let down by it. Otherwise, I agree. I like how Culp at the end kind of was like sorry about doing it. You don't really see that, I think, a lot in shows or movies. At least not that I can recall. So I liked, again, that he played against type and did it, but it just felt kind of soft. Whoa, I found the contact lens. Well, that really wasn't her. We found this one here. Oh, you fucked me. You know what? The one thing I've learned in these 2 episodes is, no matter how strong the writing is, except maybe this contact lenses, I'm gonna say no until someone convinces me it's a good ending.
Yeah.
Just shut your fucking mouth. I get you have an ego. I get that you're arrogant. I get that you think you're smarter than Columbo. And he leads you to believe that, which is cool. And he lets people that, it's like there's this old theory. I've mentioned lies before, right? Different types. There's this theory of emotional leakage in the human body. And what that means is, if you watch somebody physically and don't listen to their words, they have leakage where usually it's in their hands and their face, sometimes their feet, but that you can tell somebody's lying by what they call micro expressions, which has got picked up in television film over the past 10, 20 years or so. The idea is somebody has a baseline, and then when you ask them questions, you see how they react to it. If they take a long time to respond and they say no, something, they're lying or whatever. And so I thought Culp did a great job of being smart, leading him in the directions he kind of wanted to. But all you had to do, just like the guy in the first episode, is shut your fucking mouth and just say, Mr. Columbo, I feel really bad about it, but talk to my lawyer. I'm busy. I don't have time for this. And I don't know if we'll see that because, again, as a TV show, they're letting it kind of unfold. And they've done a good job so far with showing two really competent, quote unquote, evil bad guys and how they are with it. They've changed some of the stuff here, like with the affair and with the older husband here. I like that. I think it's refreshing. It saves this episode from being a complete crap fest because of the ending, in my opinion. That's my final take. What about yours?
I think that you're right. The ending is a little shaky with that. Because Columbo himself, like LK is saying, it's the action, less the intent. Why are you here? Why are you looking through your car? It was just convenient that he did find a contact lens. That was just weird. Like if he wore contacts himself, maybe, but he didn't. But anyway, I think that this is still a solid episode. I loved going through it. First episode I do feel is stronger, but it's still solid. I'm really happy we decided to step into this.
Yeah, I am too. To answer LK's question, because we've definitely gotten a few comments about it, is why some people said, hey, why didn't you do the first couple episodes really before the first episode that we did, the TV one? And the reason why is because it was a TV movie and we wanted to skip straight to the 7 episodes about it. We've had some scheduling conflicts with Easter, and I've some personal vacation time between us and family things have come up. So we plan on doing the whole season. But in light of all that, what's going to happen is we'll continue going through the season 1, and then we'll just go ahead and do the first 2 probably after that.
Yeah.
Sometimes as a movie, we haven't really looked at that. Like with Twin Peaks, you could argue which comes first, Fire Walk with Me or the TV show. Well, when you see what gets out there, it's obviously the short TV episode, and then they made a movie to film stuff between it. But sometimes with these 2-hour pilots that would maybe launch a TV show, unless they were, a unified thing and the next episode was 3 or something like that, we haven't covered it. But it's a legitimate question, and again, not knowing too much about Columbo, only having heard about some of the character traits he has, I'll call it. We're, as a first watch for both of us, is pretty rare, and we've covered some things that I've seen, like The Prisoner, and some things that like I haven't seen, and it's the same thing with Pixel. So this is a rare. We both haven't seen it, don't know really what to expect, don't know too much about it, so let's just watch and talk it. But it does seem like the first 2 people are saying, hey, you guys got to talk about these things. It's important for it. So that's why with us, like I said, we'll continue through 1 through 7, and then we'll go back to do those first 2. I think it would behoove us to kind of stop now and do the original TV movie 1 or 2 episodes or whatever they are, and then just go to episode 2. So we're just going to try to keep it going in order. The reason why we do the season 1s is because depending on the kind of interest it generates and all that, we might go back to season 2s of some of the shows, but we've got plenty of season 1s to kind of take a look at and go over some other shows. But for Columbo, we have said, hey, let's tackle this thing. It's supposed to be one of the better written TV shows. And I'll agree with you, Pixel here, despite what we might say about the ending of it, I still think it's a very solid episode, very good. I'm not really let down by it. I don't go, oh, the first one's great, this one sucks, it can't compare. It's very good, and I like a lot of what they did with it. It shows me there's some effort into it, and probably the quality of TV writing, generally speaking, even though I'm certainly no master of 70s television, I only know some of it. I know a little more 80s than 70s. I got to say, it's pretty strong, and I like that. A lot of detail in here, but simple, straightforward. Give the people to be doing something, whether it's Columbo talking with the coach while they're on the golf course, and he's him hitting a golf ball on the range, because I guess as an actor, he really liked that personally, the golf game. Just little things like that, having dinner and going over stuff, having the war room stuff, have something going on in the background, or have them interacting physically with something while they're advancing the plot. I think it's a great way to do it. It's so simple. I just wish people would do that more in TV shows rather than just blah, 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 blah. Something happened next cutscene. So to me, these are very solid. I'm really looking forward to episode 3 as well, which we will be covering next week here on Extreme TV. Anything else you need to advertise, plug, or get off your chest, Pixel, before we wrap it up?
At 8:15 on the Kiki Pup Show, you can watch a bunch of people read comic books. We suggest you do so. They're going to have a great time, and we hope you have a great time watching.
Yeah, we don't look ahead on these episodes, so we have no idea what to expect. We just talk them out there, and we got episode 3 coming up. So it's pretty good stuff. I'm looking forward to it. When I think of Columbo, I think my first exposure to him, other than people mimicking his characters, I may have mentioned these picks, but if not, I'll mention it to the group, is I think it's the early 90s, 93, 94. William Shatner plays a Rush Limbaugh type parody character on radio with a really, really horrible fake mustache called Fielding Chase. And he's the killer in it, and he's just absolutely incredible about it. And I think I've seen maybe a Leonard Nimoy in 1 or 2 of the episodes as the killer, because I guess sometimes there's a couple repeat actors that that are just different characters in some of the seasons, because I have no idea where the seasons might change or what happens in it and stuff there too. But we'll see what happens. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah, because if we get to the end of this and those 2 movies, I can see it very easy to continue, especially after learning that apparently a certain prisoner shows up later.
Patrick McGowan, I know, right?
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing too, because you're mentioning what LK's just put in there about matching wits of people. I agree, because I just watched the first episode of this TV show that Amazon Prime dropped called Fallout, which we may be reviewing over on Tuesday night here on Extreme Movie Show. I've still got a few more episodes to watch, and I think it's an 8-episode drop. I'll say so far that they've nailed the aesthetic. I've got my radar up about the writing. I know the games. I've played them all. I remember back when it was Interplay, way back in the day. So, it's because of my obviously indifference towards, how much money they dumped on Lord of the Rings and how much of a letdown season 2 of Reacher was for me, especially the last few episodes really brought it down compared to the first season, that I don't want to see a team. And Alan Ritchson, the actor, kind of opening his mouth about some political things here too. It's like, bro, just keep your mouth shut, go do film season 3, get ready for season 4. Don't give anybody a reason to boycott your show. Amazon's so hit or miss, because they'll definitely put money behind it. And I go, God, I know Peacock did the recent show, whose name always escapes me, and I always remember it when we're done, of the woman that's got the subconscious ability to tell if you're lying, and kind of uses it as Columbo, and even actually acts like her. It was a decent show, but it's like, well, it's Columbo, so it's, how good can it really be? You just put a woman in it, and it's just not the same. This is strong TV. This is good stuff. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for listening. Sounds like Maranya, LK really know what's going on with this Columbo stuff. So it's interesting to see how their opinions compare with ours and what kind of feedback they have. It's incredible that we're watching. This is almost the oldest show we've covered, because we've done The Prisoner. So this is, I think, the second oldest. I'm really enjoying this a lot. Have a good night, everybody. This has not been a Dan Curse production. Good night now.
Farewell. One more thing.